Tonight's species is a favorite on the flats. This fish is silver in color, loves to eat artificial lures, and is recognized by its fang teeth or yellow mouth. Tonight, we're talking about sea trout here on the Florida Insider Fisher Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
Thanks for joining us for another week here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We've got a lot to cover today for your Memorial Day weekend fishing excursions, including, having a sit down with our friend from What Are We Smoking? But Rick, let's talk a little bit about our inshore star of the show, Trout.
You're absolutely, trout, Brie, is found throughout the whole state of Florida, really popular on the West Coast. But one of the things that I think about when I'm trout fishing is how cool they are to catch on topwater lures.
Oh, yeah.
They're a great fish
Explosive.
when it comes to that. They don't fight very much like some of our species that we covered over the 26 weeks, but the bite is something that you never forget.
Yep. Exactly. All right, well, joining us in the Trout Talk today is Dave Farrell, of course, at the CCA Workbench. Dave, are you ready to help our viewer with some tips over there?
I am, and especially about that topwater stuff, because I really like doing that. That's my favorite thing to do, is to wade and throw a topwater plug for trout. So that's what we're going to talk about.
All right.
And some other stuff.
And some other stuff, obviously, by the looks of the CCA Workbench. Well, first up, we're bobbing into the ALTA Equipment Northeast region and seeing what kind of mind-blowing photos Captain Tommy Derringer has to go along with his trout ski reports today. Hey, Tommy.
Trout skis, that's right, Brie.
Yep.
Hey, you know what, guys, I'm stoked that we're talking about trout right now because, this is a great time to catch trout, and big ones at that. This is probably one of my favorite times of year. We catch some of the biggest trout from about April through about the end of May, and there's so many different ways, like Rick was talking about. Topwater is a great one to catch trout. You can toss those lures or flies, or you can just use a live shrimp under a cork. That's just one of the great things about trout, is they're a fish that all ages and skill levels can really enjoy catching. Now, I spoke to numerous captains throughout the region, and they all had some great trout reports for me. Captain Buzz Brandon from NortheastFloridaAngling.com, he tells me he's been catching some really nice trout in Jacksonville, up there in the St. Johns River near both the Dames Point Bridge and around Bartram Island early in the morning on that incoming tide. Now, he's targeting rocks, docks, and riprap, or really any kind of eddy. Now, he's tossing that topwater plug early in the morning, and then he's going to switch to a subsurface diving plug or a FISHBITES paddle tail when that sun gets a little higher in the sky. Now, I also spoke to my brother, Captain Todd Derringer from Inshore Adventures, and he tells me he's on some big trout in the creeks just north of the Volano Bridge in St. Augustine, especially on that early morning high outgoing tide we have this weekend. Now, Captain Todd's having his clients free line a large live shrimp, and he's rigging them on a 2/0 Eagle Claw circle hook. And he's just letting that shrimp drift with the incoming tide in the deeper bends of those creeks. And in the south end of St. Augustine, I have been finding some big trout up shallow on the flats along the grass edges and on some oyster points. Now, my biggest springtime trout always seem to come from what Rick was talking about, that top water plug and subsurface plugs. Now, this time of year, those big gator trout can be full of eggs, so take good care of those fish. Make sure they get a really healthy release. Now, speaking of gator trout, I've got a picture here. Captain Matt Chipperfield from Chip's Coastal Charter sent me this picture of his client, Sasha Vaziri, and this massive gator trout that they caught in Lake Guana. It's a big old fat trout.
That is a big trout. All right.
So also, in short, Rick, we got the snook fishing, man. It's been firing up over the last couple of weeks. The air and the water temperatures are heating up, and the snook have been getting up shallow in the south end of the region from Tomoka up to Palm Coast. Now, I've also seen some huge snook laid up in and around the Pellicer Flats area this week. The water's actually been clear enough to see some of them. Now, we haven't caught many of those bigger ones. They can be really tricky and pretty spooky at times. Now, the ones we have tricked have been on big free-lined shrimp, live shrimp that is, or a decent-sized mullet, both on a 3/0 Eagle Claw circle hook. Now, this weekend, we're going to have a great tide to get out super early and toss a big topwater plug for those snook, which is also one of the best and most fun ways to target those fish. Now, I also spoke to my buddy Eddie Cabler who's been absolutely slaying those big snook in the St. Johns River. Now, Eddie's been targeting docks and other structures with lipped diving plugs, and he's been coming up with some monsters, at least for our area. And I've got a picture of one of those monsters here. This is Eddie Cabler with one of many nice snook that he's recently caught up in Jacksonville, of all places. Can you believe we're catching snook that size in Jacksonville?
Wow.
Awesome.
That's so great. Offshore, let's go,
All
bro.
right. All right, blue marlin. With all the mahi around, there's been some blue marlin being caught in the region over the last couple of weeks. The marlin show up every year to feed on the mahi as they move through. There's a few anglers that are specifically targeting those fish, but a lot of guys are just seeing them while they're trolling for the mahi. So if you want a chance at a blue marlin, this would be a great time of year to keep some bigger tackle ready while you're doing some trolling offshore. Now, speaking of the mahi, I'm talking about them again. It continues to be a great mahi bite this week. There's still quite a few fish being caught throughout the region. Most of those fish are coming from about 160 foot and out. Although I did get a couple of reports from some fish, about some fish moving in a little closer this week. Now, there's still some big mahi around as well. Seems like even the average fish has been on the bigger side pretty much the whole season. I spoke to our buddy Captain Gibbs from the Angry Seas, and he said that they caught their limits this week using some of his Lure 'em In model mini bubblers in a variety of colors, but he said especially the pink and blue rigged in front of a small ballyhoo. And I've got one last picture here, guys. Billy Courtney sent me this picture with his huge 68-pound mahi that he caught east of St. Augustine. What a monster mahi.
Awesome. Look at his
That
face.
is a stud.
He's stoked. Yeah, for
I
sure.
understand that face.
Thank you so much, Tommy. Thanks for
guys.
starting us off. We're going to go ahead and get a look at the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region. Tommy says that we're going to do trout and redfish on topwater plugs inshore at first light. On the high tide, target grass lines on the larger flats around the schools of finger mullet, and then offshore mahis are still wide open near the Gulf Stream throughout the entire region, Brie.
All right, the GARMIN Panhandle region is up next, and if trout is on your list of things to catch this holiday weekend, Captain Pat Deneen has the goods. Go for it, Pat.
Yeah, Brie, just like Tommy was mentioning, this is the time of the year that some of the best trout fishing of the year occurs. Spring through early summer, the biggest, fattest trout are caught. And I've heard of reports of plenty 25-inch plus trout being caught, particularly from St. Joe Bay, but also really throughout the whole Panhandle. You're going to find them on grass in 2 to 8 feet of water outside of the bayou mouths, particularly those grass flats that are kind of spotty bottom where you have a lot of sand patches. And then additionally, this past week's rain should push them down into the lower bay areas, especially over in Perdido Bay and Escambia Bay, all that fresh water coming down the river. They can be caught on live baits like shrimp, menhaden, finger mullets. But for the really big trouts, the really big girls, a live croaker's hard to beat. But also, I like to lure fish them, and as Rick mentioned, that they are very susceptible to catch on lures. And soft plastics or hard swim baits are what I prefer. The hard swim bait like the Berkeley Cutter for a subsurface bait, or the Hijacker for the surface water bait. And then for the soft plastic, electric chicken color is hard to beat. That I guess a combination of chartreuse pink and white. And then also the hard baits like the natural colors. Basically fan cast in the direction you're drifting down the flat. When you get a bite, drop your power pole, stop the boat quietly, or if you're wade fishing, just stop right there and fish thoroughly that area, because chances are strong there's more trout in that area. And then there's a photo of a buddy of mine sitting in Kevin Gallagher's granddaughter, Ari. It's not a trout, but it's a trophy catfish, and she caught while she was trout fishing off the dock. So this is an example of start them young, make sure they have their princess and fishing outfit on, and they're going to enjoy it for the rest of their life.
That is a perfect combination, Pat. I approve.
Yeah, Brie, no doubt. But speaking of enjoying the inshore fishing, the CCA Star Tournament is kicking off right now. It's got trout, but it's got a whole bunch of other flavors in there. If you're not part of it, you're missing out, because it's a really good tournament to be a part of, and you don't have to catch the biggest fish to win. You just have to play.
That's right. Good advice. Tell us about the tarpon.
Yeah,
Pat.
Rick, good advice. But staying inshore, tarpon fishing. I spoke with Captain Sean Chalker of bar hopping charters over in Indian Pass, and Sean reports good numbers of tarpon in Apalachicola Bay and its passes. And additionally, they're showing up pretty good just to the east of Carabel And there's also fish showing up along all of the Panhandle beaches in more and more numbers. Last week we had some really good weather, and everybody from Pensacola east, we're seeing some tarpons. But really, the bulk of them are going to be in the eastern part of our region right now. To target them in Apalachicola, fish the Menhaden schools in the passes, and also along St. Vincent Island. You use heavy spinning tackle or a conventional casting tackle, a live or dead bait or dead pogey on a 100-pound leader and a circle hook. Just cast it out and retrieve. Cast it out and retrieve. Also, just put a rod in the rod holder, let Roddy do the job, and drift a pogey. You can also cast big swim baits and plugs. The tarpons are running 50 pounds to over 150 pounds, and that fishery should just keep getting better and better, for the next really 6 weeks. Moving offshore, there's been plenty of dolphin being caught, primarily beyond 100 fathoms, but some are much closer. In fact, a decent one was caught from an area pier just last week. Lots of sargassum and blue water have been pushed up into our area from the loop current, and with it are the dolphin. You're going to catch them on trolled ballyhoo, either skirted or naked in small plugs. It also pays to have some spinning rods rigged and ready with jigs or live baits. You find a picky or a lazy fish, or a picky or a lazy group of fish on a grass raft or on a debris pile. You can also fire them up with cut bait, live bait, or light tackle jigs. The dolphins are running up to about 30 pounds. And then finally offshore, the swordfish has been really consistent before this past week's rough weather. We had a couple lows move up in northern Gulf, kind of made it uncomfortable offshore, but prior to that, there's plenty of swordfish being caught both day and night. They're being found in 1,200 to 600 feet of water, particularly in areas where you have some bottom feature like a ridge, a valley, or a hump. Squid are probably the most common bait, but strip baits from dolphin, bonita, or blackfin bellies, they make excellent baits. They are more durable than squid. Basically, they take a good bill whack and then they stay on the hook. Swords are averaging about 60 pounds, but can be caught in excess of 200 pounds. And then my buddy Andrew Grasshopper Dover, he sent me this picture of Milton Harris with a swordfish that they caught last week on Andrew's boat, the Muscle Memories out of Destin. And that's pretty typical of the average size swordfish being caught right now.
All right, Thank you so much, Pat. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Pat says that inshore, St. Joe Bay for gator trout, fish early and late, make a long cast with topwater baits over the grass in 2 to 4 feet of water. And then offshore, plenty of dolphin coming around from the nipple to the spur. Find grass lines, grass islands, and if you find the mahis, that's where you'll find them.
All right, well, we're casting into the STARTRON Central West region, coming right up. But first, Dave has some tantalizing trout catching
tips.
Heard
the cork over there. Got
for
distracted.
Academy Sports and Outdoors rigs and techniques.
Tantalizing.
Tantalizing.
That's what that little cork does. That's a good word.
Thank you. Wanted to teach Rick a new one.
I've got a little tip for using one of these with braided line too. So we're going to talk about that.
All right.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Sirius XM Marine. Weather, fish mapping, entertainment. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Real Legends. Everything you need to live life local. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Stiffy, innovators in shallow water performance. And Daiquiri Deck, food, drinks, friends.
Your time on the water is precious. You return season after season to make unforgettable memories, fight a few fish, reconnect with friends, and recenter yourself. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters stay with Yamaha for the long run, for life. They know reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water, from snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep. Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it. catch more fish.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench, and it's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Technique. And Dave, all of this stuff we can find at Academy.
Yes.
But what are we going to be doing with the rigs this week?
Well, you know, we're talking a little bit about trout. These one of the most sought after game fish in Florida. You know, they're good to eat for, you know, once they get to a certain size, and people love to catch them. They're easy to catch. They're easily fooled by artificial baits, which is, you know, a great thing for us. And usually once you find them, you can catch quite a few of them. You know, they like to school up in certain areas, but you know, their main diet is small crustaceans, small fish, just about anything that comes by in the current. You know, they like to ambush. They're an ambush feeder. They live down in the grass. They eat little pinfish, croakers, anything that lives in the grass. Shrimps is one of their frame, and the shrimp is one of those as well. But a 16-inch trout can eat a huge bait. It's weird how much, there's their belly, you know, he's a longer fish, and his belly takes up a lot of space. And so you can catch an 18-inch trout on a freaking 10-inch mullet. I mean, they will eat a big bait sometimes. Most of the time we don't worry about that. We try to use smaller stuff. Now, we were talking earlier about the topwater plugs. We'll start there, I reckon. I love to, you know, wade fish and work topwater baits. This is a topwater bait that is more of a the Chapo is more of a bait that doesn't stop moving. You know, you just reel it, which is great for a spinning rod. You know, and then you got a walk the dog type bait,
the jaywalker,
you walk the bait, you know, walk the dog with it, and as long as you keep it moving, it's pretty good too. If you're using a chug style of a topwater plug, though, you might want to use a bait caster, because when you're doing all that chugging and reeling in slack line, if you're using a spinning reel, a lot of times you can wrap over the spool a lot of times, and you don't even notice it. But it can happen to you a lot when you're using
really good advice. When
you're using lures that you pop and then reel slack. Even other, it doesn't even have to be a topwater plug, but if you're moving something really hard and then reeling up a lot of loose line, just pay real close attention when you do that. Otherwise, use a bait caster. A bait caster is perfect for all that topwater stuff, especially the chugging and all that.
Now, what if you're not fishing on the top, Dave? You want to fish subsurface?
Well, you know, I love anything with a jig head. You know, a soft bait with a jig head on it, a paddle tail. You know, it's a search bait more than anything. You know, when you don't know where the fish are, that jig head is really great. And a weighted swim bait is really great, because you can make long casts with those weighted lures versus a non-weighted. And when you make those long casts with a 7-foot rod, you can cover a lot of ground. Now, if you know where the fish are, you don't need the weight. You can just use a weightless. You know, a weedless swim bait with no weight on it. Yeah. And that's if you're fishing in a place where you know the fish know you're there, it's really, really shallow. If you throw a big jig in there and it hits the water with a lot of force, it can spook them away. But you know, that little light bait hitting the water doesn't mess with them nearly as much. You know, and the popping cork is a great bait, especially, you know, with a jig head and a soft plastic on it. This is the best of both worlds, because you got the Fight Club, the FISHBITES Fight Club, which is like a soft plastic, but a bait with a bait at the same time, because they will be drawn to that just as they would with a shrimp, except that stays on a lot better than a shrimp. So when you're popping that, you know, cork, you know, that'll stay on there a lot better than a shrimp will.
Tell everybody the trick with popping corks and braided line.
Oh, well, I was telling you, whenever I use, because I use a lot of popping corks when I fish shiners and stuff for bass, and I realized, because all my rods have braided line on them, when you tie braided line to one of these popping corks, because braided line is so limp, it wraps all up in here.
Around all this
gets
hardware.
all that hardware. So what I do is I put a good 10 or 15 inch piece of mono, and then maybe a swivel, or I tie directly to my braid so that it keeps my braid away from that when you're popping it.
Dave, every week.
Just tantalizing.
My man is on fire. I have 9 weeks of fire here.
Amazing. All right, our captain in the STARTRON Central West region is so much more than a trout fisherman, but this week we'll take it. Hey, Jeff.
Well, you know, that's what I always say, because I'll tell you all why. Because when I was maybe 10 or 12 years old, me and my brother and some of our friends would go out and wade on the grass flats right near our house, and we would throw, and I know Rick and Dave will remember these, the Boone Trout Tout. And you could either get it in glow or gray, and you could get a white or a red jig head, and that's all there was color-wise. And I started throwing those trout touts and catching trout, and it was the coolest thing ever, because you didn't need to catch bait, you didn't need shrimp, and that's how I fell in love with the trout fishing. Now, saying that, I've lived in the STARTRON Central West region my whole life, and I've seen the trout fishing at its best, and I've seen it pretty bad. But right now, we're on a rebound, and that has to do with good stewardship, conservation, and the handling of the trout as well. You know, there's a lot of limitations on the trout, and they brought it down. And the trout, Rick, that we were catching in the show we filmed just last year on Sportsman Adventures, no, they weren't all giant trout, but they were nice, healthy, 16, 18 inch. Well, those fish are up near 20 inches now and really starting to make a good comeback. The thing about the trout, you guys, is he lives out in the Gulf just as much as he lives in the bays. And when he leaves the bay, he may fall out into that Gulf and end up down south with the current and then fall back in Charlotte Harbor, and we may never see those trout again. So it all depends on when they fall back in bays, is there bait in those bays to sustain the trout's feeding habits? If there is, then you've got what you've got, a summertime pattern when they get out on that deeper grass flat, say 4 to 6 feet, and sometimes even out on the beach when they're in the troughs. And you can throw soft plastics like the FISHBITES in the hammer time pattern on a 1/4 ounce jig head, or the new cutter the juke, which is like a semi-lipped twitch bait. And you can work those along those grass edges and troughs and do real well on the speckled trout. Now on the inshore, you want to look for that 4 to 6 foot of water, mottled bottom, potholes. And right now, everything's so clear because we haven't had a lot of rain. And then you want to find that there's a lot of bait on the flat. And it can be pilchards, it can be pinfish, it can be threadfins, but you want to see flashing bait, birds diving, and I promise you're going to catch trout. Now, Dave Farrell would rig what he calls a pigfish under a cork. We call them grunts on our side, but that's probably the best #1 live bait there is for a big trout. And according to the depth of water you're fishing, that's how far you want to have your grunt or pigfish under your cork. Now in the wintertime, we like to use soft plastics like the Bass Assassin, Golden Brim, or even a gulp shrimp rigged on a 1/4 or even 3/8 jig head and bounce that on the bottom like we have in some other Sportsman Adventure shows and drag it on the bottom to where it almost creates a puff of mud. And you'll catch trout that way because they don't really seem to mind the cold water so much. They just find deeper, muddier areas to work in. Some of the areas right now that the trout fishing's been good is off of the mouth of the Manatee River, north to Joe's Island, and then down south around Devilfish Key, and then across the harbor off of Okeelia.
Paige.
That's been some really good trout fishing right now.
Paige.
I've got 2 photos tonight.
Yep.
The first one, Darlene Creel with a big trout she caught in the Gulf.
Paige.
My second photo. Yes.
Go ahead. Tell me about this second photo, and then you only got time for amberjack.
Paul Azinger, PGA golfer.
All right, bub.
With
You
a
don't.
nice trout.
We don't have any time. We don't have any time left, man. You burned it all up on your trout. We'll go ahead and
He's
get
a
the
trout
amberjack
fisherman
and permits next week and the tarpon. We appreciate it, bub. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Page says that inshore snook fish the nighttime outgoing tide at Big Pass, New Pass, Longboat Pass, with free line mullet or ladyfish for big girl snooks. And then offshore, permit bite has been good on the M Reef as long as the wind is down. Live free line pass crabs or Trocar 4.0 circle hooks are your best bait.
He's just living up to his name, okay?
He got so excited about trout that he forgot everything.
I know, it's fine. Coming up June 23rd, come on out to South Siesta Key Daiquiri Deck in Sarasota from 6 to 8 p.m. and hang out with Rick, Jeff Page. You could probably hear more stories like he just told us about trout because he's got them. We'll have fish stories, what are we smoking fish dip, and frozen drink specials, of course.
Jose
Cuervo frozen. Excuse me. And it's just a bunch of fun. I've been there a few times, obviously not last year because I was no fun last year.
No, you weren't allowed to have any
I wasn't allowed
daiquiris.
to have any Jose Cuervos. I could have eaten a ton of fish dip though, that's for sure.
All right.
Well, we can't wait to see everyone there. Coming up, we're headed to the Casa Vieja Southwest and Fish Bites East region. Plus, we're talking with our friends from What Are We Smoking Fish Dip. We'll be right back. Yum!
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Bahio Sunglasses, blue light blocking, radically clear lenses. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. R&R Tackle, from our tackle box to yours. Florida Coast Equipment, your local Kubota dealer. Coast to coast, we've got you covered. And GARMIN, plot your paradise.
Joining me now is Bobby Singer from What Are We Smoking Fish Dip. You know, Bobby, how in the world, you're a dentist by trade, how in the world did you get in the fish dip business?
Well, you know, the wife reached out to me one day and said, I'm going to run the practice on Fridays. Why don't you go out fishing? So that was the shortest conversation we ever had. I was out the door and, you know, filling the boat with fish. Friends calling me up, seeing the posts on Instagram, on social media, saying, hey, we're going to make that dip that you always make for our parties. And one thing led to another, and I'm selling fish dip out of the back of my dental practice at 7:30 in the morning, and my patients are buying it. We're out by 8 o'clock, and it became a weekly thing, and then it turned into a passion. We started a company right before the pandemic. And instead of stopping during the pandemic, we hammered down and we started going door to door. We were in parking lots and people were coming out, following us on social media, gave them something to do, gave us something to do. And rather than just sit back, we were able to get it in the hands of the people.
Invested in a kitchen, brought in family.
Yeah, family.
Brought in the wives, the brothers, everything.
Yeah, best friends. We formulated that together and we really wanted to come out with the premium product. And rather than just come out with any other fish dip, you know, we really have a product that stands alone by itself. You don't need to buy anything to mix with it. And these mom and pop little small markets that really enjoyed it and embraced it and really saw the value we were bringing to them, they wanted that premium product. They didn't want just another fish dip that's on another shelf that is the same thing. This really stood apart and was a little very different.
So you guys create your own crackers as well, but if people want to know where there's a store that carries your product, where can they go?
Well, you know, we started in Miami, and that's where our kitchen is, but we, through the partnership with Kip and Kelly up in Tampa, they run that region, so we're in, you know, great stores and markets around that area. We're down in the Keys and Isla Mirada. We're actually scratching into Key West pretty soon. And then up the East Coast, we're as high as Lake Worth. We're working on shipping, which is, you know.
Tell everybody the website, and there is a dealer locator you guys can go to.
www.whatareWeSmoking.com. Leave off the G, it's What Are We Smoking.
You see this hand? That means your time's up. Good job, Bub.
We'll
Great fish dip, guys. Great fish dip. You got to try it.
Yeah.
Tell them I sent you.
You do have to try it. It's amazing. All right, the CASA VIEJA Southwest region is swimming with trout, and Captain Ronnie Houston has just what we're going to need to catch them. Go for it, Ronnie.
Well, like always, it's always a pleasure being here. You know, there's a lot we can talk about when it comes to the trout in my region, but how about we just stick with the basics? You want to look for grass, potholes, edges, combined with flats and tides. Now, generally, your higher tides, 18 inches to 4 foot of water, and your lower tides, you want to look for the deeper potholes, troughs, and edges. You also want to be looking for diving birds with bait or fry bait, or areas where there's a lot of pilchards, or other areas where there's grass or an abundance of pinfish. Now, drifting combined with wind and being able to anchor. Once you locate the fish, nothing's going to beat a set of power poles. Now, your basic baits, old-fashioned popping corks with shrimp, or nowadays they call them noise-making corks like the Bass Assassin Oval Quick Cork with soft plastic shrimp and paddle tails on a jig head, or your simple bucktails tipped with shrimp. But my favorite, top water walk the dog lures on lower stages or days there's a slight ripple on the water. And I have a couple pictures with Chris McCubbin and some nice trout caught down in the region. And Brie, my motto is when it comes to trout and noise-making cork, if you ain't clacking, you ain't jacking.
That's right. That's right. Tell us about the redfish.
Using that one.
So the redfish, you know, the bite continues to be strong throughout the region. Some days, depending on the tides, patience is going to be the key. But coon key to round key, your mid-incoming to mid-outgoing, look for areas of fry bait and roaming mullet combined with broken up oyster bottom, oyster shorelines, or oyster bar points. Now your simple yellow and brown bucktails tipped with shrimp, soft plastic paddle tails or shrimp on quarter-ounce jig heads bouncing the bottom. Top water walk the dog lures fan casted on points or edges on your lower stages of the tide. Now live pinfish or pilchards on knocker rigs or popping corks, but on your slacker tides, if moving baits and live baits aren't working, you want to use your cut baits through the scent, whether it be mullet or ladyfish. There's a couple nice reds just recently caught with Stuart Widener and Chen Singletary on Taking Kids Out. Offshore side, the permit. Bite remains to be great, especially with clean water, and if you can get those light wind days to run offshore, even better. Wrecks, towers, and artificial reefs all through the region, even as close as 5 miles off the beach, out to 30 miles out anchoring up, or drifting several times in and around the structure while watching your bottom finder, or simply freelining or adding a little weight, bit of weight to get down to the bottom, especially if we got some current and you locate the fish down below the water column. Nice picture of a permit recently caught while fishing with Captain West Fidel offshore. Last species is going to be the cobias, Gordon's Pass, south of Plover Key, wrecks and towers with moderate weather. Having patience again to anchor up or drift across some of these areas with light winds and clean water, you can see the fish. If you do not see the fish on top in these areas with structure, using chugging lures to try to draw the fish to the top, and sight casting them live baits or swim baits that are being presented to them while the fish are on top. If not, you want to be using live pinfish, herring and pilchards on the bottom. Very special weekend this weekend, Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy time with the family. One of the most important things, going to be a lot of boats on the water. Let's all be so careful and be safe, and look forward to the oncoming week. Watch our reports.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Great report from the CASA VIEJA Southwest region. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Catty Can hotspots. Ronnie says inshore, Snook, Fort Myers Beach to Cape Romano at the beaches, passes, and blowdowns in the mid-afternoon high using live baits. And then offshore, mangrove snappers, Gordon Pass to Fort Myers Beach on wrecks and ledges, chumming and dropping back cut baits day or night, Brie.
Was it if you ain't clacking?
If you ain't clacking, you ain't jacking.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, if you want sea trout in the Fish Bites East region, Captain Mike Holliday says you got to find seagrass. Sounds simple enough, Mike.
That's true. And in my region, if you can sleep late if you use bait.
Oh, man. Right.
That's true, Dad.
In the grass plots. And, we lost a lot of our seagrass in the Indian River about 9 years ago, but there's still some spots that have some grass in St. Lucie and Indian River counties, and that's where you're going to find a lot of the school trout right now. Places like Round Island, Queens Cove, the flats off Torpy Road, Bear Point, Middle Cove, all those areas have good sea trout action these days. And trout in my region are, this time of year are most active in low light. So it's a dawn bite. It goes from about 6 a.m. until about 8:30 or 9, and then it quickly shuts down. Most anglers in my region throw soft plastics like saltwater assassin shads or 4-inch sea shads in the drunk monkey or the Houdini colors or any of the darker colors. You use those soft plastics to cover a lot of water. In the middle of the day, live pinfish, sand perch, pilchards, any of those under a Bass Assassin or Saltwater Assassin quick cork are going to work. Average sea trout in my region is going to be 1 to 3 pounds. But we catch them to about 10 pounds. And I got a photo. Captain Ed Zayak was up on the double bars off Middle Cove in St. Lucie County when he found that sea trout. That ate one of those soft plastics.
Nice.
The other thing we got going, snook season closes the harvest May 31st. So this is the last week for anglers to catch a fish for the table before the closure for the summer spawn. With the warmer weather, we're seeing a push of fish pretty much into all the inlets in my region, as well as around the spillways, the piers, the bridges. We're seeing them out on the beach. The majority of fish are focused on mullet, so this is a really good time to start your day throwing topwater plugs or saltwater assassin dye dappers early in the morning. Throw them on the seawalls or on the shorelines at dawn and dusk. This is also a great time to fish around the mullet schools with a live mullet or a live sand perch around the inlet. After dark, a chartreuse, R&R, flarehawk jig is going to be money on the bridges and also around the jetties and the inlets. You can also fish, live pilchards around the docks and mangroves, particularly up at Fort Pierce, and do very well. The average snook in my region is going to be 5 to 15 pounds. I have a photo of a nice fish. Captain Rufus Wakeman at Jensen Beach caught that fish on a live croaker, and Rufus releases all his fish. Give it a kiss and let it go.
All right, Holiday, let's go offshore, bud.
Well, the dolphin bite remains strong, although it's a lot more spread out than it's been the last couple of weeks. The bite's in anywhere from 60 to 1,000 feet of water or more. So it changes every day. The fish move with the currents. You just got to kind of run around. It's a big ocean. The key is to run until you find something that looks good, a rip, an edge, a weed line, or a color change, and then start there. Work that area for 20 to 30 minutes. And if you don't get any action, pick up and move to the next spot that looks good. If you get a bite, stick on and work that area. It's been a morning bite, so a lot of the boats are passing on catching live bait so they can be offshore at dawn, putting out a spread, a rigged ballyhoo or mullet or strip baits with a feather on it. You can also grab some live baits and run and gun, looking for floating debris or big mats of weeds. Watch for diving frigate birds. The average dolphin right now is 20 pounds. The most consistent action, though, has really been for mangrove snapper. And if you go to the reefs in 65 to 80 feet of water from Bethel Shoals all the way south to about Jensen Beach, you can catch good mangroves at any time of day. But the bigger fish are definitely coming at night. And most of the anglers are anchoring up and chumming with small pilchards or chunks of sardines or cigar minnows. And then for bait, they're using everything from a live pilchard or pinfish to a grunt plug, a ballyhoo plug or a ballyhoo and jig combination, or a dead sardine or cigar minnow. You want to rig them up on 30-pound braided line, 40-pound monofilament leader, and a 5/0 trocar circle hook. Average mangrove snapper is 2 to 3 pounds. But we got some good ones in my region. I got a photo there of a real nice one. Sydney Albritton caught that nice mangrove in 80 feet of water north of Fort Pierce. That fish ate a small blue runner.
All right, let's go bass fishing. What do you got for your report this week?
Yeah, water levels on the Kissimmee chain are down, so you really have to be careful where you run right now, even when you're in the boat trails. The good side of that is that it concentrates the fish out in the open water. I was talking to Captain Steve Nymiller at bassonline.com. He said you need to be on the water at dawn, fishing in peppergrass beds with a June bug, with a chartreuse tail colored worm assassin. Put a 1/8 ounce weight on it, and fish it with right across the top. You can also use like a watermelon red glitter colored logger toad. Run them on the top of the grass. You'll get those explosive blowups. If you want to throw top water, throw a prop bait on the edge of the grass. Then as the sun gets up, move to the deeper water, look for the open holes in the hydrilla, and work a fat job rig Senko style. Work that on the edges. He said you want to fish that fat job really, really slow. Let it sit for 5 or 6 seconds at a time. The bite's coming when the bait is sitting. If you're looking for numbers and big fish, you may want to go to live shiners. Nymiller said he's fishing shiners in the potholes and getting 40 to 60 fish on most days, with fish up to about 8 pounds right now. So Toho, Kissimmee are pretty hot.
Thanks, Mike. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots from the East region. Mike says inshore, Snook on the docks of Fort Pierce Inlet. Fish at night, dawn, and dusk with live pilchards, sand perch, or shrimp, and a jig combo. And then offshore, kingfish on the ledge off of the reef of Jupiter. Use live or dead sardines, thread fins, pilchards, or even a mullet. Sounds like you can catch a kingfish on anything.
It does. All right, look alive, my friends. We're headed to the Real Legends Central East region. But first, Dave is showing us some Taco Marine new products at the CCA Workbench. Dave, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, we got some cool jigs over here, some great lures from Island Lures, one of my favorite ones, by the way, and some really cool clothing from Legends.
Can't wait to
Real
hear
Legends, as well as some taco stuff, because, you know, that's what our name says.
Gonna talk about them.
Yeah.
We'll be back. Oh, man.
Boy.
It's my best one yet.
I like it.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by ALTA Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Fenwick, feel everything. Tin Cup Mountain Whiskey. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin. Best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
So not only is ALTA a sponsor of the show, but we're also partnered with CCA. And the one thing that we're all really concerned about is our water management and what's going on with poor water quality throughout the state of Florida. ALTA is working on the C43 project and has several pieces of equipment there. So let's take a look at what we got going on up by Lake Okeechobee.
There's only one Everglades in the world. We're doing this for our kids, you know, honestly.
In the heart of the Everglades in Florida, the alligator and the flamingo bird are in their true element. But after more than a century of draining the land, the fresh water flows are damaged. To recreate the flows, a massive federal restoration plan is carried out, spanning over 30 years and costing over $16.5 billion.
And that is a system of 68 specific projects scattered throughout Central and South Florida. It's about sustainability. It's making sure that we're going to have enough water for residential use, for commercial and agricultural use, and enough water for the environment.
One important part of this extensive project is the build of the C43 water reservoir. When finished, the two-celled above-ground reservoir will be close to the size of Manhattan.
The project is basically an area where there is a perimeter embankment of 19 miles where we're going to catch water coming from the Caloosahatchee River during the period of flooding. In this way, we are going to try to avoid the fresh water of the river is going directly to the estuary, mixing with the salt water and creating phenomena which are not good for the environment.
The reservoir will be able to hold a breathtaking 200 billion liters of fresh water. Right now, 42 Volvo machines are working the soil.
Talking about different materials, at the end of the works, we're going to move 20 million cubic yards of material.
We started in 1845 when Florida became a state. The federal government gifted to the state of Florida all of the wetlands with the requirement that they be drained. All this ditching and draining has changed the ecology. So at that point, the state of Florida said, we need to change things. What we hope to see when the project is completed is we get the proper salinity in the estuary and the proper water quality.
With the C43 water reservoir and the other projects connected to the big restoration plan, The future for the whole state of Florida looks brighter than ever before.
It's a one-of-a-kind ecosystem, and it's one of the biggest restoration projects in the world right now. The hope is that we can figure this out, replumb the Everglades, get the water where it needs to be, when it needs to be there, to the point where everyone can enjoy what I had and what our forefathers had before us.
You know, Dave, we might not always be doing the right thing, but at least we're trying to do some things. And that's what's so important about what's happening in the environment. But it is time for the CCA Workbench, the Taco Trolling the Edge new product section. So speaking of taco, you know, we have the shade fin here.
Yes.
And the one thing that I wanted to show everybody is we have the shade fin over on the Pathfinder over there. It shows people how you can create portable shade, whether it's on your center console by extending using a rod holder on top of your T-top, or you can use an extension like we have on the Pathfinder where we have the ability to get the shade fin up in the air.
Right.
But what,
this is the, you know, 6x5, you know, it's a huge amount of space that you can take up.
But I thought it would be really cool. We've had this product on before, but I thought it'd be cool to show people how easy it is to put away and just how compact it is. So we've already folded in the one side. I'm gonna step on this here, Dave, while we push down. I'm sorry, there you go. Now we'll put, you got my fingers?
Sorry.
All right, push that in. We're gonna push that all the way in. Now we'll put these sidebars in, tuck all of this. It comes in a real cool carrying case, which is the most important thing. It can be easily stored.
Right.
So turn it upside down. We'll stick this part in there, okay? And now it becomes very easy to carry.
Put it on your boat.
Put it on your boat. What do you got there? Let me turn this up for you. There you go, slides right in. And now you can store it in a rod locker, you can store it in one of your hatches if you're using it on your contender, whatever it may be.
Carry it back and forth to the boat with that little joker.
Exactly. To me, this is what makes this so cool. It can be used on flats boats, bay boats, or extend the shade.
Shadow in seconds.
Yes.
That's what they call it.
You can, you know, add more shade to what you already have.
Right.
The shade fin, where do we find it, Dave?
You go to tacomarine.com. It's got a 1-year warranty as well, which you probably won't need because it's made out of some really good stuff.
Right.
Next, we got the Island Lure Sea Star. This is one of my favorite lures of all time. You know, the Sea Star, the old one, you know, had the hair on it. It's just a great lure. I've used it to catch a lot of fish, but now they've got them with the dual rubber skirts. So if you don't want to put a ballyhoo behind it, you know, you can just run it just like it is with a lure. Just put a hook in it and let her go. It's got that really nice little small compact head, gives a really nice tight wiggle to it. You know, when you ever have those little heads that are really small like that and have a really sharp taper towards the rear, it makes a really tight wiggle. And that thing really works great on the short.
Like this.
Very tight wiggle, yeah. And I catch a lot of fish on the short rod with that. So, especially the black and red one.
Where do we go to find them?
Mirrorlure.com. The Mirror Lure is where you get all your island lures.
All right.
Next, we got some no live bait needed. These are some swim baits. The boys at JD Outdoors, I went in there and said, hey man, what's everybody, you know, all excited about? And they said, these things are really catching a lot of fish. The no live bait needed swim baits. That's the 5-inch paddle tail, and this is their mullet, little mullet one. Hand poured baits. They come with a 3-inch paddle, an 8-inch paddle, and an 8-inch straight, just a straight tail. Real thick profile, so they don't roll as much, you know, from side to side. They swim straight. They're made to be fished in an inlet or under a bridge with a lot of current. You know, they have 1 to 3 ounce weights that come with them. These really nice jig heads with a big curly screw top on there, so that it ain't gonna come off once you put it on there. And those are just, they just seem like really cool. I haven't got to use them yet. Really big hooks. They're catching big tarpon, big snook on them, and that hook's not gonna fail. So it's a really cool thing.
Part of the taco, quickly, this is an adjustable mount that you would use to set it up in your rod holder on the back of your T-top,
Right.
on your hard top
Right.
or soft top. This just simply goes into the gimbal. Then as that slides through, you're going to screw this on, and you can adjust it whichever way you want.
I got you.
And what do you got there from Real Legends?
Real
Dave?
Legends is Memorial Day, so we're talking a little bit about some of their shirts and stuff. This is their new long sleeve Real Tech Performance shirt. It's got a neck shield inside as well. Soft, really lightweight fabric. It's got all the really cool stuff and moisture wicking, quick dry, UPF 40, sweat activated cooling, all the high tech stuff. And
Yeah.
plus, these shirts are really, really lightweight, and that's what I like about them here in Florida. Also, we have the Sandbar Performance shorts. Again, these are really quick to dry. They're made for fishing and being outdoors. UPF 50 on those. They have 2 front pockets, 2 back pockets, an elastic pocket for your beverage of choice. I like to have a lot of pockets because I lose things, but now I don't lose as much because I got a lot of pockets. Plus, now I got to have a belt loops because,
Yeah, we know. You worked your.
They go down.
You worked your took us off.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of took us, Brie,
RealLegends.com.
where are you taking us to next?
Oh my gosh. That's not the best thing you've ever said. All
I
right,
think
if you're
that-
looking for a relaxed, laid-back holiday weekend catching trout, the Real Legends Central East region is a place to be, and Captain Jim Russ is telling us why. Go for it, Jim.
Well, I need one of those taco marine shade fins for my boat.
Yeah, you do.
I'm gonna have to get there real quick. But the speckled trout, Brie, they're the easiest fish to target in the Real Legends Central East region right now. Smaller trout in that 10 to 15 inch range, they're generally congregating, around docks and depressions with soft bottom, like little muddy bottom areas, and areas near caulerpa. We've got quite a bit of caulerpa. It looks like a seagrass on the bottom, but it's an algae. So saltwater assassin makes a 4-inch sea shad tail that is probably the top producer of fish in this size class. Now, finding gator trout or gator-sized trout is a whole nother story, though. The massive grass flats that we've had in years past that supported hundreds of thousands of speckled trout, and many of those fish in that 5+ pound mark have been destroyed. Lawn fertilizers, sewage spills, other chemicals that wash into the lagoon have absolutely destroyed our grass flats. So now there's very specific places that you need to look for these gator-sized trout. Anything with that gator designation is a fish, 7, 8, 9 pounds. But where you're going to find them is in the south end of the region around spoil islands that have mullet congregating around them, or pilchards, and in the extreme shallows on the east side of the Mosquito Lagoon. So those little skinny technical boats still have a purpose in the lagoon system, and it's specifically for targeting gator-sized trout. Now, for baits, you're going to need live croakers, live finger mullet. That's what those bigger trout like to strike. A large topwater plug or a 5 to 6 inch saltwater assassin swim bait. They work really good, especially first thing in the morning. I've got a picture here of a little topwater action trout, not necessarily a gator, but a pretty decent sized trout that we caught not too long ago there in the Indian River Lagoon. Now, my second species is snook, and right now all 3 of my inlets, Sebastian, Ponce, and Canaveral, are the places to be. You're going to find fish up to 40 inches and possibly even bigger with live croakers, pilchards, and pinfish at these locations. In the nighttime, you want to throw an R&R flare hawk jig or a 5 to 6 inch saltwater assassin, the same one we use for those big speckled trout, working really good at the inlets, or a large lip diving plug. Now, right now, you want something that's going to imitate a mullet or a pinfish or a croaker. Those are the top 3 baits. Mahara are also working if you can find some Mahara. Right now, you've got about a couple of days left before the season closes, so if you get one within the slot limit, you can invite it home for dinner. And I've got a picture here of one that Jody Calderon brought home to dinner with me the last time he fished with me up at Canaveral. What was interesting, that fish had a lead anchor or a lead egg sinker and a steel wire around its body, one of those pre-made systems that looked like it had been turned into a loop, and the fish swam through it, and it was actually growing into it, which is kind of interesting. Now, swinging offshore, our dolphin bite, there's pretty abundant numbers of dolphin right now. Right before the last blow, the guys that were getting out were doing really good. You want to drag your ballyhoo around in that 180 to 300 foot area around rips and temperature breaks. That's where you're going to find the bigger fish. Now, for the smaller fish, they seem to be holding more around the weed patches and some of that other floating debris in about 90 to 140 feet. If you find single frigate birds, follow that bird, get in front of that bird if you can, because they're typically on very large dolphin. We've had a couple of fish over 50 pounds that were caught off frigate birds here recently, but most of our fish are running 5 to 10 pounds. And then my last species offshore is tarpon, and that's actually more of a nearshore fish. Right now, it's getting ready to bust wide open. Captain Glenn Austin's been working on some of those fish down in the Sebastian and Vero area for a couple of weeks now, but they're getting ready to migrate up the coast, and so the guys at Canaveral and New Smyrna are also going to get them. Live pogies, pilchards, and greenies are really good if you're slow trolling. Croakers, you can also pitch them. They don't slow troll real well, but you can pitch them to schools of tarpon. You want to rig these on a 7/0 or 8/0 circle hook with some 60 to 80 pound leader. Most of our beach tarpon right now are running about 50 to 100 pounds, but we are starting to see some bigger fish into that 150 pound class show up. I've got a picture here of my son Justin Ross with a nice little lip grab that he had the other day with one of his clients. So if you guys and gals get a chance to get out there and catch some of these tarpon, now's the time. We're going to have a huge run of them over the next few weeks.
All right, good advice. Thank you so much, Jim. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from the Central East region. He says inshore, snook at Sebastian Inlet at night. Use R&R flare hog jigs or saltwater 5-inch dye dapper on the outgoing tide. And then offshore, troll skirted ballyhoos for dolphin near the rips, weed lines, and temperature breaks.
Okay, Rick, the 2022 West Marine CCA Florida Star presented by Yamaha begins this Saturday, May 28th. Already tagged fish are being caught all over the state. This recent one was caught in Siesta Key just a few days ago and released back for another angler to catch. Now, all of these star tagged redfish were recaptured and released back in the waters, so registered anglers, they're waiting for you. Any fish you catch over the summer could be a winner in the star competition. Don't forget to get registered before you get on the water this weekend. CCAFLstar.com. It's happening.
Just shows that you got to be registered to be there, guys. 'Cause
Absolutely.
for sure they're catching.
You're going to be sad. All right, the Yanmar ASB Keys and Discover Crystal River Northwest regions are sharing their weekend report coming up next. And if you would like to be a part of our live studio audience coming up June 8th for our dolphin show and June 22nd for our kids show, you can go sign up on our website at FloridaInsiderFishingReport.com. It's going to be a fun time. See you soon.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by STARTRON. Start, run, and store with STARTRON. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Fenwick, feel everything. Strike Zone Fishing. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
Welcome back. Celebrating its 40th year, the Key West Marlin Tournament featuring $50,000 in guaranteed cash prizes is planned for July 20th through July 23rd at Stock Island Marina Village in Key West. In addition to spectacular fishing and prizes, the event features nightly festivities including cocktail parties, dinners, and an awards banquet. Entries are limited to 75 boats, so get registered now at keywestmarlin.com. All right, we're heading into the Yanmar ASB Keys region, the place to be for Memorial Day weekend, and see how Captain Sarah Stanzik is putting us on some trout. Go for it, Sarah.
Hey everyone, here from the Yanmar ASB Keys region. We are getting geared up for the busy holiday weekend. It seems like a lot of people are coming down, and of course the weather looks spectacular, so that's nice because it's been super windy the past week. So, trout here in the Keys can be found all throughout Florida Bay. One of the most productive ways to catch them, we like to use popping corks and artificial baits such as the FISHBITES shrimp on a jig head. You can target trout by looking to where the muds are. So the muds you look for, they're the off-color water where the fish are often feeding. And you simply drift and cast. Once you start catching a few, you can stake up and then kind of sit on top of them. They're fun for anglers of any age, and they make good table fare too. Here's a photo. Big trout caught by Captain Brandon Storen and his dad.
Nice. All right, what else you got for us this week, Sarah?
Also inshore, tarpon. We got tarpon been biting really good the past week. Full swing tarpon season now. They're one of the most sought-after sports fish. Tons of people come to the Keys just to try to catch tarpon. They put up a great fight. They pull hard. They do awesome jumps. Ultimate sport fish for sure. As for catching them, they'll eat many types of flies as well as live and dead bait, so they appeal to a wide variety of anglers. For bait fishing, we'll use live crab or mullet, and we fish near the bridges or in channels where there's good water flow. Here's a picture of Captain Bo Basso. He caught this tarpon on fly, and it's a nice jumping shot.
Yeah, it is a nice shot.
Yeah.
Let's go offshore there, girl.
Offshore, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I've been talking about, grouper on the reef, mahi, blah, blah, yellowtail. I'm going to do something a little bit different tonight and talk about deep water tilefish and snowy grouper, yellow edge grouper. Not a lot of people go out and target those fish. It's a little technical to fish for them. But if you're tired of, trying to catch the black and red groupers on the reef, you can head offshore. You want to go to between 400 and 700 feet of water for those tilefish and the deep water grouper. And you're going to do deep dropping, it's called. So all those species opened up on May 1st when regular grouper season did. And again, not a ton of boats go to target them because it's kind of technical and difficult to drift your boat right and get your bait on the bottom. But it's fun if you figure it out. So we use a chicken rig with 3 hooks, either a dead squid or cut up fish for bait. And it just depends on how the current is, how much lead you want to use, but you just want to get down to the bottom and kind of bounce along the bottom. It's just something that's fun and different, and we enjoy doing it, deep dropping. So here's a photo of us. We went out last week, me and the guys, and we actually got our limit of the gray tilefish, which are so good to eat. I made ceviche out of that batch of fish, and it was amazing.
Nice. I'm going to give you a little tip. If you take a chunk of the fish bites, which I'll make sure you get some, add it to your bait or your squid. What'll end up happening is so many times the bait falls all off when you're dropping it, but the fish bites won't. And you'll catch a lot of stuff.
That.
I promise it'll work. All right, one more thing you got to tell us about. What is it?
The permit are still here, and one of my favorite fish to catch. They're spawning on the reefs and on the wrecks. Live crab is best to use for bait. A Penn 5500 with a 10-foot leader, 30-pound fluorocarbon, and half-ounce jig head is a good setup. You want to look for the schools of permit rising to the surface off of those wrecks to spawn, and you cast your crab at them. They pull really hard. They make good runs. They're really fun to catch. One of my favorite. Nick and I went out the other day basically for a boat ride. We took the girls with us and put up this picture. We ended up catching 3 permit, just not even trying.
Nice. Well, that seems...
There's a selfie of us with the permit on the X3.
So that seems to kind of go with being a Stanzik. You guys don't seem to have to try too hard. We're so grateful that you're working with us this year. Tell Nick we send our love. Give those girls a kiss, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspot from the Florida Keys region. Sarah says, guys, inshore, lots of big tarpon being caught by the bridges and the channels locally. Use live crabs or mullet or look for the water movement, preferably on the falling tide. It's going to be a little dirtier. You'll get better bites then. And then offshore, yellowtail snapper bite has been good. Anchor in 60 to 90 feet of water. Use lots of chum with oats and sand off of the back of your boat. Remember, fish 1 rod at a time with the yellowtails. You're going to catch a whole lot more.
You're absolutely right about those Stanzics, man. Just
they
going
catch
out,
them.
Just
they
gonna
catch
3 permit without even trying.
Nick Stanzik came out of the womb catching fish.
Well,
He's
that'll
daddy.
happen.
Daddy Stanzik is the bomb, man.
There we go. All right, we have a few more tournaments in the Keys coming up. First, we have the Skipper's Dolphin Tournament, headquartered at the namesake Skipper's Dockside Restaurant, offering cash prizes of over $60,000, including a first place prize of $20,000. And then more than $35,000 in cash and prizes are up for grabs in this long-running tournament, including a cool $20,000 to the angler who catches the largest dolphin weighing over 50 pounds. Next up, proceeds from this exclusive challenge benefit the Don Hawley Foundation, designed to assist Florida Keys inshore fishing guides during times of need. And finally, cash and prizes are awarded to first through third place finishers and for the largest dolphin caught in this tournament of female angler teams. More information on Keys tournaments is at flakeys.com. All right, the trout in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region enjoy it as much as Captain Jeff Hageman does. So Jeff, tell us where we can find them.
My region was made for trout fishing. We got miles and miles of turtle grass shorelines. All our flats, we have great trout fishing that can be found throughout my entire region. It's probably one of our most fished inshore species we have, and we have the perfect habitat for them. You can catch them on fly, plug, soft plastics, and as far as live baits go, shrimp under a cork, sardines, pinfish, and grass grunts are all effective. Trout can be found on grass flats from anywhere from 1 to 12 feet of water, depending on the water temperature. Trout are very much an ambush predator. If you look at the grass flat as structure, which it is, most of the fish are around broken bottom where sand meets grass or grass meets a different type of grass or grass thins out, and that makes a little ledge there, and they like to get in that stuff, and so they can ambush anything coming across that turtle or eelgrass. In the wintertime, they tend to group up really good in larger numbers. Anywhere from fish from 2 to 5 pounds can be caught, and fish in that 6-pound range are also being caught in that. Summertime months, our fish start to head looking for cooler water, so you might want to move out a little bit deeper to find them. Also, if you're using artificials, slow down your retrieve a little bit when fishing deeper water, and you'll cover that bottom of the water column and catch a few more fish. Staying inshore, tarpon season is in full swing. Lots of fish around, moving through the entire region. Fish on the beaches, passes, flats from St. Pete's River. Live bait, plug, fly, and crabs, pinfish, and threadfins are also a good live bait choice. As far as flies go, purple and black, and cockroach. That seem to be the best patterns for fly right now. I got a photo here of Kevin and Becky are my longtime clients. They fish with me every Saturday during tarpon season, and longtime watchers of the show. And Kevin caught his personal best, and probably the biggest one I've ever put my hands on in my career. This 83-inch by 48-inch, 239-pounder.
Go
That's a
Hag!
big one,
That's
Hag.
so awesome! Congratulations,
Congratulations,
you guys.
man. PBs, baby, all the way. Go ahead, take me offshore to the Wonderland.
Captain Rob Davenport, Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete, reports a good red grouper bite right now. He's fishing that 150 to 170 flat hard rock bottom with those cracks and holes in them. He's using a bottom rig with 60 to 80-pound fluorocarbon leader, 6 to 8-aught circle hook, 6 to 8 ounces of lead. Is working best. Threadfin herring or sardines tipped with squid have been working really good, and live bait is also working really well. And I got a photo here of Captain Rob's son Trevor and a friend Tyler with 2 nice red grouper.
Nice. All right, what else you got?
He's also got a report of triggerfish and vermilion snapper. It's been on fire, fishing the hard bottom ledges and wrecks. Chicken rigs with 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, 1-aught circle hook, and 4 ounces of lead will do the trick. Small pieces of squid had been the bait of choice, and I've got 2 photos here of a nice triggerfish and a monster beeliner vermilion snapper. That's a big one there.
That is. Hey, Hag, before we go, give us a quick, how did that play out with that big poon? What did he eat? How long did it take? Did he jump a bunch of times? Take you offshore? Tell me what happened.
We got out on the beach, and the fish weren't really showing real good, and the water's muddy, and I'm watching the side scan. I'm on my Rodan, sitting there, and I marked a couple fish on the side scan, just cruising, a 20-foot line, and I spot locked us off. I kept marking fish. We pitched out a few baits, and we pitched out 2 pinfish and a crab, and he ate the crab right off the get-go. So that side scan really works when those fish aren't showing, and that spot lock held me right in place and on that Rodan and got us locked in. 25 minutes later, I grabbed a jaw, and I kept yelling at him. I go, tighten that drag down. He goes, no, it's tight. Because you can usually land one in about 15 minutes or so, and that one took a little longer.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Great fish.
All right,
That's
man.
so
Congratulations. Cool. That's a lot to be proud of. Let me
Yep.
know if you want to get a mount. We'll call King Sailfish, and we'll get you a special Ricky Dicky discount. All right, buddy.
Good.
All right, man. I appreciate you very much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. He says inshore, the snook bite has been heating up. Look for the fish around the good current flows and ambush points and use live pilchers for bait. And then offshore, mangrove snappers over the rock piles in 50 to 75 feet of water, Brie.
What is your PB for tarpon?
Guided or my personal?
Your personal.
It's 140, 150 pounds.
Okay, guided.
Guided, I catch one on fly, 183 pounds with Kenny Carmen from Biscayne Rods.
There we go.
Yeah.
PBs all day. All right, we've got one more region left to explore here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. So when we come back, we're taking you into the R&R Tackle Southeast region. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Shallow Sport. Penn. Let the battle begin. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. And Taco Marine. Troll the Edge.
Today I would like to go over a little more advanced technique when using a power pole shallow water anchor. First thing I do when leaving the dock is pay attention to the wind direction and the sun. My goal is to fish all shorelines, flats, or docks with the wind and the sun at my back. Doing this gives me the best shot at sneaking up on fish and spotting them from further away. It also dramatically increases my casting distance. Throwing with the wind as opposed to casting directly into the wind is another key tip. Another advantage to approaching spots like this, when I'm working an area with the wind at my back, I do not have to use my trolling motor nearly as much. I also don't have to turn it up on higher speeds, which reduces hole slap and other noises that could spook fish. I'm trying to be as stealthy as possible and let the wind push me down a shoreline, giving me the best advantage possible. When I see a fish or I hook up, I deploy the power pole silently in the water. My boat remains facing downwind even with a single power pole anchor. Next time you're out on the water, fish with the wind and the sun at your back, and I guarantee your catches will go up. That's your power pole tip.
All right, if you're looking for trout in the southeast region, Captain Jimbo Thomas is telling us where they frequent, Jimbo, so let's hear it.
You got it, Brie. Hey, Rick and Dave. You know, sea trout fish in the southeast region is decent at the north and south end. Now, traditionally, the best trout fishing in the region can be found on the grass flats on the west side of South Biscayne Bay in the Gables by the Sea area, and then on both the east and west sides of North Biscayne Bay from Venetian Causeway north to Holliver Inlet. Then if you're fishing in the north end of the region, look for the sea trout on the east side of Lake Worth Lagoon and also the ICW from Southern Boulevard Bridge south to Hypoluxo Island. You want to look for areas with good moving water with heavy grass and potholes, anywhere from 3 to 8 feet of water, and also look for any signs of bait fish activity. Now, both live and artificial baits work well on sea trout. Small like pilchards, herring, or pinfish, fish under a popping cork work great, or artificials like quarter-ounce bass assassin jig heads with a 4-inch soft plastic tail, surface, and shallow running twitch baits. Those are all trout killers. Now, the average size fish down in the southeast region are usually in the 15 to 18 inch range, but fish up to 25 inches, which is roughly a 4 to 5 pounder, that's not uncommon. Now, I got a photo here. This is Dan from South Miami with a 3-pound, 22.5-inch sea trout that he caught North Biscayne Bay aboard the Go Hard with Captain A.B. Raymond. Now, staying inshore, tarpon fishing is in full swing in all of the inlets, creeks, and bridges of the ICW. Live crabs, mullet, neutral swimming plastic baits, and flies have all been working depending on where they are being fished. Now, when you're using a live bait, you want to use circle hooks in the 4 to 8 range. Try to match that hook to the size of your bait. And then in the inlets and around the bridges, the fish have been biting on both tides in the evening, with the outgoing tide being the best. And around the bridges, you want to fish the shadow lines on the outgoing tide. We've also been tarpon off the beaches on both the north and south sides of Government Cut. Those tarpon have been in the 60 to 100 pound range, and the early evening bite has been the best. Now, moving offshore, starting to find dolphin on a fairly regular basis. Dolphin are being caught anywhere from 300 to 1,000 feet of water under birds and patches of grass, mostly frigate birds. Now, most of the days, there's been a lot of sargassum offshore, and it's been really scattered out, not lined up, so it's been really tough to troll through. And we've been spotting those fish under the frigate birds and gulls, getting bites on live pilchards, cigar minnows, and cut bait, or trolled ballyhoo. Then you can troll those rig ballyhoos, small lures, and feathers under those birds and around those patches and get some bites. Most of the fish have been schoolies in the 4 to 8 pound range. There have been some larger ones mixed in. Then the action on the edge of the Gulf Stream remains consistent with kingfish, blackfin tuna, and the occasional sail and dolphin. We've been fishing live herrings, sardines, and goggle eyes in anywhere from 120 to 200 feet of water under the kite or out of the riggers. And also a good idea to drop a light bait down on the bottom in case you drift over a hungry grouper or mutton snapper. If you can get enough pilchers to live chum with, that'll definitely help get the bite going. And the best bite has been early in the morning or late afternoon into the evening. That's when it's been the best, especially for those tunas.
Jimbo, I have to ask you, where the hell are you, bub?
I am at an Italian restaurant in the bathroom.
We knew it.
All right, so Jimbo, I do have a couple of questions for you. You know, I know that one of the things you love to do is have crawfish boil. Why don't you tell me a little bit about why you like that so much?
Well, first, I love eating those stupid things.
Yes.
And also, it's a big social event, you know, having all of our friends over and great social time, have a few cold beers. So, yeah, I love eating them foremost, so.
Okay.
It's just a lot of fun. Great gatherings.
All right, so I got another question for you also. Tell me a little bit about the tarpon. You said they were on both sides of the cut. The fish that are on the south side of the cut, are they staging and coming south? Have you noticed any pattern there?
No, I haven't noticed any pattern, but I've seen them rolling on both sides. Although the last couple of days it's been rough, so it's not been so easy to see them. But it looks like it's going to calm down for the weekend, so it shouldn't be any problem spotting those fish or marking them on your depth machine. But they've been pretty much roaming in the mouth of the cut, and not just government cut, all the cuts, in both the north and south sides off the beaches of any of your local inlets.
All right, well, thank you so much from the report from your number 2 situation. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the What Are We Smoking Fish dips. He says inshore, catch tarpon in the inlets and along the bridges, the shadow lines, fishing with crab, shrimp, mullet, and artificials. And then offshore, kite, fish, drift, or live bait in 100 to 300 feet of water for sailfish, blackfin, tunas, kingfish, and dolphin.
I want to say that's a first for this show, but I feel like a lot of
Jimbo,
captains.
with Jimbo,
no,
you
any
just
of
never
them.
know.
Any of them. I feel like we've had probably a few report from a bathroom in an Italian restaurant. All right. Well, Memorial Day weekend is upon us, and there's fish to be caught, so we're going to tell you what to expect next week when we come back right after this. We'll see you soon. Reporting from the bathroom of Mamma Mia's. I love him. Welcome back. Next week, we are talking bait. So make sure you tune in. It's where fishing starts, is the bait.
Give me a cracker.
So, the guys here, we're getting into this. What are we smoking fish dip?
Can you smell it?
I smell all of it. I smell the mahi, smell the swordfish, I smell wahoo. Right? There's wahoo here, guys. Swordfish right here. We are excited for this weekend. I think we're gonna take some.
Do your sunglasses do this? Do they catch all the crackers going?
Oh, I've seen food in many Captain sunglasses before. Yeah. Have a great holiday weekend. Thank you guys for joining us. What are we smoking? Fish dip in the house.
Get you some fish dip for the weekend.
Be safe this weekend. No drinking and driving, but have a good time on the water. Go catch those fish. We love you all. Happy
that stuff's good.
eating for me.